Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Define Disaster. This is Battlefield 4, and in today's weapon review, we're going to be taking a closer look at the AK-5C Carbine in a little more detail. Now, the AK-5C is probably one of the most used carbines in Battlefield 4, and the reason for this is that carbines are an all-kit weapon in this game versus the PDWs, and thus the engineers on Conquest Large and Conquest game modes, where engagement distances can vary quite heavily and tend towards longer ranges, are quite screwed with PDWs, given that those are really meant for close encounter combat. This is why, of course, the AK-5C is usually seen on engineers in various different game modes, mainly though Conquest and Conquest Large. However, for the sake of this video, I ran it with a medic most of the time because I wanted to see how effective this weapon could be at its best. And speaking of its best, let's start about the stats. What makes this weapon good? What makes it bad? Well, with a maximum damage of 24 and a minimum damage of 15.4, we have a standard carbine damage model here. Nothing spectacular. It's going to allow you to 5-shot kill your enemy all the way out to something like 27 meters, after which you'll start needing 6 and eventually 7 bullets to kill your enemy. Its fire rate is respectable, but definitely nothing close quarter capable. At 700 rounds per minute, it's one of those kind of typical fire rates you'll find on all-rounder capable weaponry. And this is, of course, what the AK-5C is: a very versatile weapon platform to be used in a variety of situations. Moving on to the magazine size of the AK-5C at 30+1, 31 bullets, a standard magazine here. Things start to get a little bit more interesting when we look at reload time. With a short reload of 1.95 seconds, anything under the 2-second mark, as we know, is blazing fast, and so the AK-5C has a short reload that is great for any situation, but especially benefits it in close quarter combat, where reloading has to happen as quickly and as efficiently as possible. Long reload at 2.4 seconds isn't too bad either. Definitely nothing that's going to get you killed in close quarter. Obviously, always try to avoid the longer reload versus the short reload, but it isn't anything major, and it isn't anything that should hinder your performance too much. When it comes to recoil, things start to get a little bit more interesting, with a vertical recoil of 0.32 and 0.2 degrees to the left and to the right. Relatively low recoil here. Yes, something you should be aware of and control, but the gun generally doesn't drift too much from its target and has a nice balanced recoil for the left and right side, meaning that while compensation isn't possible, it also isn't really necessary with only 0.2 degrees. What's really nice about this gun when it comes to recoil is its first shot multiplier, 1.65. You can therefore tap fire this gun very effectively at targets at long range, extending the capabilities of the AK-5C, even though it doesn't have an optimum damage model, to longer range combat, where it will not maybe keep up with something like a SAR-21, but it will put up enough damage to maybe scare off your enemy and certainly allow you to live for your next engagement. When it comes to accuracy of this gun, it's relatively simple, relatively standard. As with most carbines, we have an ADS value of 0.3 here, slightly worse than assault rifle, but for most situations plentiful. Where of course the carbines usually beast or best the assault rifles is when it comes to hipfire accuracy, that's while standing and moving, and this is the case with the AK-5C once more again as well. With an accuracy of 2.5, you can comfortably hipfire this weapon in close quarter without any difficulties. Now, with the statistics or the stats of the AK-5C being covered, let's talk about the role that it best performs in. Now, obviously, we have here more of an all-rounder, very flexible weapon, so it should perform well in most to any situation. Obviously, its biggest weakness is going to be close quarter combat. There's nothing you can do to avoid fighting at 700 rounds per minute. You're gonna be outgunned by things like the M416, Ace-23, or more close quarter weaponry such as the F2000 FAMAS or AEK. There's carbines equivalents to those weapons as well that will outgun you in close quarters, and of course the PDWs. So you have to be aware of that when getting into close quarter combat. You should try to either have the jump on your enemy or the superior accuracy, meaning going for headshots, which is definitely a possibility with this weapon given its relatively controllable recoil. Take advantage of your quick reload here, reload your gun. Often you have the opportunity so that you don't get caught out with an empty mag when facing 2 or 3 enemies, because of course, because of your lower fire rate, you also have the chance to take on a few more enemies than you may expect, because you don't burn through your bullets quite as quickly as with something like an AEK or F2000. In case you haven't realized yet, definitely here we have a weapon that best performs at medium range. Although it is an all-rounder, can perform well more or less at any distance. It's best suited for medium range combat, hitting those headshots, probably where you can still get in the range of 5-shot kills up to 27 meters, all the way up to 43. You're still getting a 6-shot kill. This is where you may want to kind of play the AK-5C, and this is where a lot of engagement distances happen in Battlefield 4, so you can be highly effective. Make sure to take advantage of that very good tap firing for longer range combat, making this weapon lethal at those distances as well. A 1.65 first shot multiplier is something you should be aware of and effectively use to your advantage. Now, in case you haven't noticed yet, I'm a big fan of the AK-5C. I very much enjoy playing with this gun because it is so versatile. But how do I like to run this gun when I'm running it either as medic or engineer? Well, there's not really much you have to correct with this gun, so it's pretty obvious. You're going to be using a red dot optic of your choice. You can use a higher magnification if you're one of those people that enjoys that, but for me, there's a little bit too much kick for the AK-5C for me to actually warrant using a 3x or 4x multiplier scope. So for me, it's the Coyote red dot sight, an accessory green laser sight or any laser sight of your choice. Remember to switch it off when you get into smoky or dark situations, but I try to take advantage of the Hipfire Accuracy that this gun already has a decent one of, as most as I can, to kind of better the close quarter performance of this weapon, which means if you have a laser sight on this weapon, you get a very, very accurate hipfire weapon, which means in close quarter you can save yourself some time because you don't have to aim down sight. When it comes to barrel attachments, frankly, I usually don't slap on anything there. You may want to put on a suppressor if you're trying to be the sneaky flank guy. Just be aware that it's obviously going to drop your muzzle velocity. For me, it's usually a standard barrel and then a vertical grip because I like to strafe while shooting with this gun, make myself a harder target, kind of negate the fact that I've got a little bit of a slower fire rate. You could slap on an angled foregrip if you wanted to even more reduce the recoil of tap firing, but in my opinion, the recoil already is so low, it doesn't really require that. So for me, a vertical grip, so I'm more accurate when hip firing and when strafing while shooting. But that pretty much wraps it up for the AK-5C. I'm a big fan of the gun. Certainly it's not the best gun in the game, but it's a very effective carbine, very effective in a number of different situations, great at medium range, good at long distances, and okay for close quarter combat, which makes the gun a flexible and enjoyable one to use. Let me know down below in the comments what you think of the AK-5C. What are your experiences with the gun? Do you enjoy playing it as much as I do, or do you prefer other carbines over the AK-5C? Leave that as well as your video suggestions down below in the comments. But otherwise, I hope you enjoyed and I hope to see you in the next Battlefield 4 video.